Hey everyone, welcome to the Ultimate Flippa Guide. I just want to first say thank you for downloading the course. It's been a blast to put all these videos together. It's forced me to really dive deep into my own Flippa business and learn a little bit more just by doing this entire course. So I'm really excited to share all that with you guys and see what you can come up with for your own Flippa business. So in a nutshell, to summarize what I do and what I'm going to be teaching you in this course is I started off with an idea for a startup, a website, a drone pilot directory. I wanted to build a directory for drone pilots and make passive income with subscription revenue, and I didn't know anything about building websites. So I learned a little bit about WordPress, and I learned that themes are available that could be molded into what you need, in my case a directory. So I was able to find a WordPress theme that was a directory theme, and I found several other plugins that I could put together to make this idea come true or come to life. And I realized that as a single founder that it's very hard to grow a directory or grow a startup. It's just a huge task, especially just since it's a two-sided market, a directory. So after a couple months, I learned how to develop this site. I had everything together, and I decided that I wanted to see if I could sell it on Flippa. It had no traffic and no revenue. And from what you remember in my story, you probably heard it, I was able to sell the site for $2,000 at a no-reserve auction on Flippa. And since then, it gave me another light bulb moment that that I could maybe build more startup websites and sell them. And it turned out that that was a decent idea, and it worked, and that's what I've been doing. So I've been taking these, I've been coming up with startup ideas. I'll find domain names that I think would work, and I think of these ideas, and I mainly directories. That's my niche, is directory sites, and I put them together. I build startup websites and I sell them at auction on Flippa to entrepreneurs or teams that are better at sales than I am, or better at marketing, better at writing copy, whatever it is. And the reason this works is the reason that the site is called Sell the Shovel is it's from one of my favorite quotes. And it's never been more true in this case, is when everybody's digging for gold and everybody's trying to find the gold, try to be the one that's selling the shovels. And lately, this whole trend of creating a startup, trying to find passive income, everybody has read books on how you can build a company online, and there's so much demand and so much of a rush and a buzz to create a startup that there's a lot of opportunity in selling the tools, selling the plugins, selling the shovels in this gold rush. So what we're doing is essentially we're building the tools, we're building the shovels, the websites for these for entrepreneurs that are better skilled or have better connections to build these sites into a successful startup. So it's similar to the gold rush, where everybody, it sounds very romantic to build a startup and cash in for $100 million and buy your Ferrari. But some of us are like me as a single founder. It's such a task to do that. So many things have to line up, and there's so much marketing and so many emails and money that has to be invested for something like that to work. But what if you just want a way of creating side income? Maybe you need to just pay off debt, or you, like me, you want to just save money to invest in real estate, or you just want to save capital to invest in something else. This is a very realistic way of doing that, and Flippa is growing. It's constantly growing. There's new users. There's always people looking for good-looking and good-functioning sites to buy and build up on their own. So that's what we're doing. That's what I'm showing you in this course, is how I build from the ground up how I buy a domain name on Flippa, or I buy a domain name from GoDaddy, how I install WordPress, the themes that I use, and we go into how I build a theme from the ground up, a directory site from the ground up on screen, how I install the plugins, and how I put those all together, and then ultimately list that on Flippa for someone else to buy. We build good functioning sites that look great, that are modern, that fill a need in the market. So we're putting out good products of functioning startup websites. So with that being said, I'm gonna kind of go over, first of all, in the course and in the segment following, we use a theme called Listify, which is a directory theme. It's $69, and I also buy 3 other paid plugins. And now, it's not necessary that you buy those plugins, but what I like to use the analogy of the car manufacturer, where if a car manufacturer is adding features to a car, an all-wheel drive system, a turbocharged engine, these are all features that add value to the car. Same with building startup websites. You can put out a free template, basically, but it's not as valuable as a site that has subscription monetization plugins installed, integrated, custom field plugins, paid plugins. It adds value to the site. So while it's not necessary that you buy some of these themes or plugins, that's what we're doing. So in case you're just so you don't wonder, well, I'm building these courses, well, what if I don't want to buy these plugins? Well, you don't have to, but I just wanted to just be transparent about everything that I'm doing, what plugins I'm using just from the ground up. It's exactly what I do to build these sites. You'll watch me do it from the ground up. So I didn't want to leave anything out. So just to clarify that, so I'll show you what plugins now that I use for those directory themes. Alright, so since we're building a directory theme, I like to use Listify. It's one of my go-to themes for a directory, just because of how easy it is to work with. They have a great support team, and the theme is extremely moldable. I've built a real estate listing website out of it, a job board with it. I've built a drone-style eBay site with it. I've even built a dating website with it. So Listify is extremely moldable, reliable, fast, easy to work with. So that's in the next in segment 2. We're going to build a theme. We're going to build a directory called gymroller.com. It's a gym directory, and we're going to use the Listify theme. Now the theme has suggested add-on plugins to increase the functionality of the site. So with the directory, typically a business will come on here and fill out a profile and pay a monthly subscription to be listed on the directory. That's the monetization method. But that doesn't come stock with the theme. It's an added plugin. So I buy the WooCommerce paid listings plugin, which is an add-on, and I purchased the developer's license for this, which is a yearly $99 fee. Since I build dozens of these sites a year, it's extremely cheap for me. And then the other plugin that I use as an add-on is WooCommerce subscriptions. This allows the businesses to pay a monthly subscription fee on the site, and that is $2.49 for up to 5 sites, which is usually what I do at a time, or $3.99 for 25 sites. What this does, though, is it adds value to your Flippa listing. So you don't need these plugins, but when you add on there on the Flippa listing, like you'll watch me do, is this website is already integrated with a subscription plugin that has a $200 value on it. It's already integrated. It's already ready to go. You turn the website into more of a turnkey product rather than here you still have to customize this. So that's one thing to consider. And then I use the WordPress Job Manager Field Editor. I use the developer's license for this, which is $79 a year. This plugin, you'll see, it allows us to edit the fields in the profiles on the directory. So it's extremely useful, and again, it adds value to the listing when you go to sell it on Flippa. So what I like to do is, after I have these sites built up with these plugins, I'll go on the Flippa listing. I'll write in how much I paid for these plugins, and that will add value to the listing. So that's what we're going to be doing in the next segment. Just so you're not confused, I basically build the site from the ground up exactly how my usual process. So it's not necessary that you buy these plugins, but it's something to definitely consider if you want to replicate my process exactly. And that's what's worked for me, and the cost makes sense for me in the long run. So without further ado, we'll move on and talk more about the segments here. What segments we're going to be covering, how they're broken down. All right, so let's go over the different segments that I have broken down. The entire course is broken down into several different segments, and you don't necessarily have to start at the beginning. You can jump around to whichever segment you want to start at first. You can start at the flip a listing if you're more interested in how I set up my flip a listing, the description, what I set my reserve price at, what days I like to post the listing. So you can start wherever you want. Maybe you're more interested in learning how I migrate a site to a new owner's account. But the first segment covers domain names and how I come up with the domain name, a strategy that I use on Flippa to find premium domain names at no reserve auctions, and I can show you how to get them at lower prices. So we covered that in the first segment. It's just basically domain names. And then the second segment, I show you how to set up a hosting account with HostGator, and you watch me on screen install WordPress, install the Listify theme, and we're going to use a domain that I bought, gymroller.com. We're going to turn that into a gym directory. So you'll watch me build this gym directory from the ground up using the Listify theme, those 3 other plugins that I talked about, and all on screen. So there's nothing that I leave out. And then the third segment will go into Photoshop, or it doesn't necessarily mean that you need Photoshop, but you'll see how I design logos. It's all about logo design, icon design, the fonts that I like to use, the process that I go through when thinking of a logo and putting that together, and then where I go to buy stock images for the sites. And then the next segment will cover the entire Flip a Listing process. So how I write a description, what listing packages I buy, what are my favorite days to post a Flip a listing, why I set them at no reserve auctions, how to get in the most active section on Flippa, the benefit of listing your site as an established site, all of that together. And then in that segment as well, I recorded a live auction of a site that I sold back in 2015 called DroneTrades.com. And you'll watch me on screen how you accept bids, what that looks like, what conversing with the other users is like, and the closing process. And you'll notice that in that section, Flippa had a different look to it. The header is different, the menu is different. So just to let you know, it might look different, but the back end is still exactly the same. It's not different by any means. It's just that the cosmetic look of Flippa was different back when I recorded that. And then the segment after that, the video segment after that, is the migration of the WordPress site to a new owner. We'll cover 3 methods. We'll transfer the domain name and show you how to do that on screen, to how to take a WordPress site, download all the files from your server, from your hosting account, how to download the database, and how to re-upload them to the new owner's hosting account, and how that whole process works. And like I said, there's 3 methods that I use. It's the manual one with the files, then we'll use a plugin, and then I'll also show you how to do that migration with a hosting provider's automatic WordPress migration tool, which is the least complicated method, and it's usually my go-to method. And then there's another segment, like a little extra segment, where I talk about the real opportunity with Flippa, and that's how to get actual website leads, website development leads from your Flippa listings. So what's worked really well for me is when I put up a Flippa listing and it's a great site, I'll usually get 1 to 2 leads from other users that ask me, hey, I have this domain, do you do web development work on the side? And that's led to dozens of other website work and some really good relationships with clients that I still have. And you'll notice that when you put up a Flippa listing, if you're putting up good quality sites that function great, you're going to have a lot of users that reach out to you that say, hey, you know what you're doing, obviously. Can you build my idea out? So there's a whole segment on that, my opinions on that, and some strategies for growing your business. Because at the end of it, what we're doing here is we're freelance web developers. And this is a great way of building your web development company. So there's some cool insights on that. And then there's a conclusion. But without further ado, let's jump right into the first segment with domains. I will see you there.